I think one of the most interesting things about Taylor Swift is that no matter how much you think you know what to expect from her, she is always subverting those expectations, giving us things that we didn't necessarily expect, things of that nature. This album is very interesting, and I'm very curious to see what continues to happen over the next couple of days. Sorry, my stuff's gonna be a little whack because it's literally 1:15 a.m. and I just finished listening to the album. So I think a lot of people are going to take this album at face value for certain. That is absolutely without a doubt. But I think that there were a lot of really interesting subversive things that were done with this. Specifically, I think that this is a callback to TTPD, If All They Want Is Grey for Me. I think this is delivering exactly what people want, or at least she is delivering what the fans believe that they want for her. She is very much delivering these songs about traffic. I am so curious when the meat and potatoes of these songs was written. I have a very big theory that a lot of this was written in the past. The reason for that is because Max Martin is not like a great person. He's really not congruent with the beliefs that Taylor currently has with regards to artist rights and things like that. Specifically, he wants 50% writer's credit on anything that he produces, whether he writes on it or not. That really just goes against everything that Taylor sat at that freaking podcast and was like, artist rights are so important to me. So that suggests to me that this is probably a project that at least in part originates from material that was written in the past. And this is not the writing style that we have been accustomed to within the last couple of albums with Taylor, especially not with TTPD. It is very clear that this is not the poet writing, that this is the showgirl writing. The showgirl is the one who puts on a show for the fans. I think a lot of these songs do have a lot of meaning that is actually about Taylor and the fans, and I think a lot of her work does. I think the large majority of Taylor's work is either parts work, in that it's her negotiating with different facets of her personality. If you've done any type of like trauma therapy, you may be familiar with that. Or it is navigating the relationship with herself and the fandom, herself and the industry, people in the industry, things of that nature. I think a lot of things in this album are actually targeted at the fans. I didn't make this as clear as I wanted to at the beginning of this video because it was 2 a.m. when I was recording, but the framework of the life of a showgirl is that Taylor is writing as a persona of hers, as a facet of her own personality. Many folks have realized that the music videos from the Midnights era foreshadowed a lot of the events that are currently happening. The Anti-Hero music video features multiple facets of Taylor, including both poet and showgirl Taylor. The poet represents who Taylor is inside, the real Taylor. The showgirl, on the other hand, is the version of Taylor that is putting on a show for her fans, trying to act as a mirror ball so they see themselves in her, giving them what they believe they want from her. Pointedly, this is an act, which is something that is confirmed both by the fact that the showgirl's values and beliefs are in defiance of things Taylor has previously said for herself, and by the final track of the album, which we'll get to later. In addition, it is apparent through the writing quality of this album, which is nowhere near as sophisticated as TTPD and other recent albums. But don't be fooled into thinking that it's one-dimensional, because even when writing a showgirl, hints of the real Taylor shine through. There are multiple layers here. On one layer, Taylor is putting on a performance for her mainline fans who have always taken every lyric seriously. On another level, though, she is providing subtext which shows the metaphorical man behind the curtain at work. But the other thing that has me questioning, like, when was this written, is the songs that people are going to be putting on their ovulation playlists just don't feel like they are written by a woman in her mid-30s. A lot of this does not feel like it is written by a woman in her mid-30s. A lot of people with TTPD were like, are we ever gonna stop going back to high school, Taylor? Probably not anytime soon, because high school is often a metaphor for the industry and the people within it with Taylor. But that's not the only thing. The media is reporting that the song ruined the friendship, which, spoiler alert if you haven't listened to the album yet, why are you listening to me before you're listening to the album anyway? If it is about the friend that they suspect it's about, this is somebody who passed away in 2010, and that's interesting to me because, yes, there was a song that fans suspect was about him that was released in 2021. A lot of people think that Forever Winter is also about him. That was from Red Taylor's version. That would have been written fairly contemporaneously with this time period that this person would have passed away. It's very interesting to me to have this song in an album that's coming out in 2025, but we'll get into that more in a second when we discuss the songs. Let's do things in order. Let me pull up Apple Music. I'm so glad that Apple Music has done day one lyrics, unlike Spotify. I don't understand why it takes Spotify so bloody long to get their crap together and get lyrics. Where Apple Music, even for small artists that have like 500 listeners a month, can have the lyrics there day one. So this is just going to be my first impressions. I listened to the album exactly once. First off, the Fate of Ophelia starts off with, I heard you calling on the megaphone, and I think it's so interesting that literally just within the past day, two, I'm sorry, time is not real to me anymore because I haven't been sleeping a lot in the lead up to this, but we literally just got director lore, or Taylor's director persona, yelling at Showgirl persona Taylor in that Target commercial. So it's very interesting to me to start this out, I heard you calling on the megaphone, you want to see me all alone. As legend has it, you are quite the pyro. Who do we know is a pyro who had a lot of match and dynamite and all of these kind of like metaphors throughout a lot of her recent everything, Taylor. This very much seems like a song from Taylor to Taylor. I think, yes, it's ostensibly made to sound like it is about her lover. Of course, everybody's going to say it's Travi. If Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce's relationship is real, which I personally believe that at least everything that we see of it is for PR, it does not fill my heart as a 40-year-old who has watched a number of my friends get married to men that are also similarly very bare minimum. And like the relationships, if you take these songs romantically and if you take these songs as being current day and related to the current relationship, they do not, to me, detail a relationship that is mature and like healthy. We'll get into that more later. Fate of Ophelia, I believe that it's more directed Taylor at herself. One of the reasons that I think that this album is so much If All You Want Is Grey for me is because Taylor has spent so much of the corpus of her work with two basic meanings, right? Men can't save you. Men very often cause you additional problems in your life, especially if you are not like fully developed emotionally, mentally, maturity-wise. Our society very much over-focuses on this concept of a man saving a woman when like in reality, that is seldom what is the case, because here's the thing. A man that is looking for a mature, equal, even relationship is very often going to look for somebody who is often at his level. A man who is looking for somebody to take advantage of, a man that is looking for somebody to harm and manipulate and control and to take over them, they're going to go for somebody who is more broken, who they can gaslight, who they can manipulate. I think it's so interesting that lighting the match and pyro and like all of these things are very common themes within Taylor's work, when a lot of times nowadays we are talking about like modern day gaslighting culture and the way that men often control women and things of that nature. I just don't think a 35-year-old Taylor Swift who has written songs about fighting dragons with you is going to just bow down and ignore one of the other theses that is common in a lot of her work, which is that happily ever after is very seldom actually happily ever after, right? Because in the movie, in a story, whatever, that is the end. There is a specific goalpost, there is nothing that happens afterwards. But in a real life relationship, after the wedding, you have to be married to the person and you have to deal with that person day in and day out. They have to be an important part of your life. And this is what I mean where I say that this feels like an old version of herself or a regressed version of herself. If this is not old material, it is a Taylor that has taken steps backwards in terms of finding yourself and finding your own identity. But specifically this line, you light the match and watch it blow, and if you'd never come for me, I might have drowned in the melancholy. I swore my loyalty to me, myself, and I right before you lit my sky up. A lot of us have this concept of the blender, the Hollywood blender, the structure, the system that keeps people in the industry under the thumb of all of these corporations and these individuals that sign the contracts. I don't want to completely derail this video by explaining blender theory, but a lot of us have a theory that we call blender theory that is about Taylor blowing up the power of the structure of the industry. I think what Taylor is saying is that at some point she stopped just focusing on her own goals, her own intentions, her own identity, and more focused on the blender, the system. What she can do from within that system to either take control of the system or to break the system, break the blender. So I see this as Mastermind Taylor coming to the Taylor that is alone in her tower, the one that keeps her longings locked up lowercase in vaults, the one that's been there since Speak Now, yada yada yada. I believe Taylor the Mastermind is saving locked up Taylor in the gilded cage from the Fate of Ophelia. Not a man with his dickmatism. I'm very curious to hear from like straight women what they think of the more like schmexy songs on this album, because maybe it's just the like in me, but I just not doing anything. Especially compared to songs like Dress, I'm just saying. It also feels like this album is making a lot of callbacks to earlier places in her work, and I think in part these callbacks are to remind people of the things that she has said and done in the past. Like late one night you dug me out of my grave and saved my heart from the Fate of Ophelia. When I think about Taylor, when I think about the grave, when I think about her coming out of the grave, I think about the Look What You Made Me Do music video where she takes herself out of the grave. She claws herself out of the grave. Again, back to this, if all you want is gray for me, I think this is again one of those things where anytime Taylor does something herself, anytime she exercises her own agency, very often mainstream Swifties give the credit for that action to Travis. Even though Taylor honestly was working herself and her audience through like trauma therapy, like a lot of us that are traumatized people treat TTPD as therapy. And I think the reason for that is because TTPD is so much about Taylor saving herself, Taylor healing herself, Taylor taking the broken shards of the broken mirror ball and putting them back together and then using that to achieve the things that she's wanted to achieve for her entire life. Another lyric that I just don't think sounds like something that Taylor wrote recently is, pledge allegiance to your hands, your team, your vibes. I do think that parts of this have been changed, updated, like keep it 100 is slang that didn't exist back then. I think that this was recorded recently, most likely, but I think a lot of the songs have probably existed for a while. Now, I'm going to be discussing the quality of the writing, the quality of the lyrics in this video a little bit. And I think it's important to understand that, much like we have established that TTPD is written by Taylor the poet, the Life of a Showgirl is written by Taylor Swift, the showgirl. It is not the part of her that is most, like, deeply good at writing, and I think that this is done on purpose. I actually think that this is kind of done to provoke criticism. I think there are a number of things that are being done with this album to make the listener skeptical of what they are being told versus the content they're consuming. I've said the entire time that I believe a lot of what Taylor is doing is about media literacy, is about making people actually listen to things, look at things, reason about things. Does this, from a critical thinking perspective, make sense? And there are just so many things that, based on what we know from Taylor from other places, other interviews, other albums, all of that jazz, do not add up, do not pass vibe check. I also think the lyric, "'Tis locked inside my memory and only you possess the key," to me that harkens back to "I hate it here so I will go to secret valleys in my mind. People need a key to get there, the only one is mine. No longer drowning and deceived, all because you came for me." I also think that this lyric could be at the fandom waking up, no longer drowning and being deceived by Taylor because they have decided to actually look for Taylor, not Taylor Swift, TM, the brand, the perfectly perfected pop princess, yada yada yada. Another lyric that sticks out to me is one of those things that, like, sounds romantic but only, like, at face, very base level. When you think about it, it's not very romantic, is "I might have lingered in purgatory. You wrap around me like a chain, a crown, a vine, pulling me into the fire." I don't really take comfort or, like, support or somebody helping you by those, like, chained and vined especially. Like, you couldn't be like, "You wrapped around me like a blanket, you wrap around me like a hug, you wrap around me like a warm embrace." Like, there are so many things that she could have said. Like, just because she isn't choosing to use her full, like, poetic voice the way she did in TTPD does not mean that she is incapable of thinking for better metaphors. And I think even a crown is one of those things where, like, a crown sounds nice, it's fancy, it's expensive, but it means responsibility. It is a heavy burden to bear. It is not a weight to be taken on lightly. Again, it is not necessarily something that I would consider particularly romantic. And again, pulling me into the fire. Now, I don't know how much I believe this versus how much I'm thinking this because it's 2 a.m. and I haven't slept for days. While I was listening to this song, I was like, an interesting interpretation of this song is that the song is from the perspective of, like, Taylor's catalog, like, personified or anthropomorphized. I don't know which would be the word. We're gonna use wrong words in this video, friends, but you'll be okay. I think it'll be fine. But anyway, the Ophelia being her catalog and Taylor coming to recover it, that might just be me being ridiculous right now. I did think this was a bop. This was one of the songs that I liked. What else is in my notes? Most of the time when Taylor references fairy tales, it is to do a subversion, a rewrite, something of that nature. This is an entirely literal interpretation of a fairy tale. It is entirely embracing the fairy tale, which again goes against so much of the corpus of her work. I also said the Tavis context is only romantic if Taylor unlearns all she's learned about relationships. One of the big things that I've said again and again about Tavis is basically that if any woman, regardless of it's Taylor or just some random person in your life, is 35 years old. They've been through a couple of few relationships. They've had bad relationships. Those relationships failed. They've analyzed those relationships, and they've come out of those relationships with like, hey, I need this, that, and the other. And then they throw away all of that and they're like, no, all of those things that I said before, none of that is true. None of the stuff before I said was actually true because I met a man. I've had a number of friends do stuff like that in my life, and I would say about 98% of the cases I have seen where a woman who is established in her beliefs and knows what she needs in a relationship, but chooses to go against that belief, it is very, very infrequently a good thing. Now let's move on to Elizabeth Taylor. Something that I've said before is if Taylor is expecting certain songs to come off as romantic, she sometimes picks the wrong figures to associate them to. Like, Ophelia is a great example. Like, Ophelia and Hamlet's relationship was no, like, great walk in the park, right? Elizabeth Taylor was married 8 times. She had a lot of love in her life, but pointedly, diamonds were forever. Back when Taylor was younger, when she was less guarded in her interviews, she would talk about the fact that, like, she was in love with love itself. Like, she liked the process of falling in love. Like, some people just really enjoy that part of the process, and this song really reminded me of how she used to say that, and also that's kind of a Elizabeth Taylor mentality as well. But another thing that's interesting about Elizabeth Taylor and her relationships is the fact that her first relationship was arranged by the studio. So imagine this, you're Taylor, right? And you're in love with your big hunky football dude Travis, and you're like, I'm gonna write a song about my love and my relationship with Travis. I'm gonna choose the woman that was married 8 times, and the man that seemed to be her favorite because she married him twice, Richard Burton, who Taylor has frequently referenced before, was not, I think, until her 5th or 6th marriage or something like that. That's just not the actress or the situation that I would associate with that man that I'm planning to stay married to for the rest of my life, right? Like, I think Elizabeth Taylor would make sense as a connection if she realizes that the relationship isn't going to last very long. Some other interesting things about Elizabeth Taylor is that a lot of times the spectacle around her relationships and the scandal around her was just as publicized, if not more, as the things that she achieved professionally. Obviously, Taylor probably relates to that. Elizabeth Taylor's parents were in a lavender marriage. Her mother was a lesbian and her father was gay. She was also a very outspoken ally herself. We've previously spoken on my channel about her relationship with Richard Burton and how they would go in hotel rooms and they would have loud arguments when they knew, like, the media or fans or things like that could overhear, because the spectacle of that relationship was bigger than either of their careers. Another really interesting scandal that happened was after the death of her husband, Mike Todd. Basically, Elizabeth Taylor and Mike Todd were close friends with Debbie Fisher and Eddie Fisher, who you might know as Carrie Fisher's parents. And I want to say Debbie and Eddie were like the maid of honor and the lead groomsman, whatever that guy is called, at their wedding. But after Mike Todd died, when Elizabeth and Eddie were grieving, they grieved into each other's arms, and she stole him from Debbie Fisher, and her reputation suffered a lot because of that. I can see why Elizabeth Taylor as a figure is interesting to Taylor, especially if, like I suggested earlier, this is material that she started when she was younger. She's not the person I would associate with my relationship of my, like, husband-to-be, though. And personally, I think this actually is one of the more sapphic tracks in the whole album. Oftentimes, it doesn't feel so glamorous to be me. I think this is a lyric that the media is going to try and use against her. I think there's a number of lyrics in here that the media are going to try to use against her. It's going to be curious to see how it happens. All the right guys promised they'd stay under bright lights, so they withered away, but you bloom. I just don't really think of men blooming. This really just seems to me like all of the right guys promised they'd stay under bright lights, they withered away, but you, my lady, bloom. She also references letters, which is so interesting to me because, like, I just don't think Travis Kelce is the letter writing type. Maybe a text message, maybe a phone call. For all of the polyler truthers, those of us who believe that she's some level of polyamorous or ethically non-monogamous or what have you, the lyric, been number 1, but I never had 2, TWO, that's one of the reasons why you need the lyrics. You need to see the lyrics. Freaking Spotify doesn't have the lyrics day one. That just means, like, been #1, but I've never had 2. Be My New York, When Hollywood Hates Me, Want to Have Partners in Both Places. Babe, I Would Trade the Cartier for Someone to Trust is a Swiftcron and Kaler line all in one. The lyric, And If You Ever Leave Me High and Dry, I'd Cry My Eyes Violet. Violet is a flower that is associated with women loving women. Specifically, violets is a symbol of sapphic love. Go back to Sappho herself. That view of Portofino on my mind. Portofino is an Italian restaurant in the South Village in New York that was frequented on Friday evenings by lesbians. And the Plaza Athénée, I'm sorry, I listened to the song twice and I'm completely forgetting how to pronounce that. That's in Paris. This line is really fascinating. All my white diamonds and lovers are forever, in the papers, on the screen, and in their minds. But are her lovers forever in reality, in actuality, in the real world? The fascinating thing of being a muse of Taylor Swift is the fact that, like, her music is going to be immortal. The muses are going to be immortalized by the music. And I think it's fascinating that she's acknowledging that this could be a romantic lyric. You could say, like, all my white diamonds and lovers are forever, not in the papers or the screen or their minds, but in my heart, you know? Again and again and again, things are only really romantic in the, like, I am marrying this man Travis Kelce sense if you don't read that far, if you don't listen too deep or think about things too much. I think actually romantic, one of the things that song is designed to do is kind of point out that fact. I want to discuss the lyric, Be My New York, When Hollywood Hates Me. So something that I discussed in my video on New Romantics is how 1989 is an album all about how Taylor moved to New York, how that was a place of new possibilities for her. And a lot of the press around that was about how she was deprioritizing her relationships with men and she was going to focus on her friends and all of that jazz. That was the era of time when she was running around everywhere with Carly Kloss attached to her at the hip. So like I discussed in my video about New Romantics is about New York's storied history as a safe place, a haven that queer people go to, especially queer artists. And I think that, coupled with the Welcome to New York line, and you can want who you want, girls and girls and boys, or is it boys and girls, regardless. A big thesis, I believe, of that album is moving to New York to experiment with your own queerness. And so that, coupled with the Be My New York, When Hollywood Hates Me, is adding to the very queer vibes I have with this song. Let's move on to Opalite. So one of the things that a lot of us have been discussing is that Opalite is a man-made thing. It is not like a gem, it is not opal, it is man-made and it is fake and is made to resemble opal. And if you don't know that, it makes the context of Opalite completely different. First of all, I do think it's funny. My brother used to call it eating out of the trash. It's never gonna last. It's like all of the men she dated before were eating out of the trash. And I've spoken about how a lot of these songs feel like regressions, and this one kind of feels like a regression in terms of, like, religion. I think if you went to Eras Tour, if you paid attention to Eras Tour, or even if you've just been paying attention since, like, Folklore Evermore, like, she's definitely been embracing more, like, witchy, more karmic, more, like, mystical side of things. When she has discussed, like, religion from a Christian perspective, it has seemed more like a questioning of that. Like, if you're queer and you grow up in Christianity and you have, like, trauma from being told that, you know, you're gonna go to hell from being gay, a lot of times one of the ways that you cope with that, you heal with that, you recover from that, is by subverting or by playing with Christian themes. Or me personally, I embraced a villain era. I embraced an era of, like, actually openly embracing parts of myself that the Catholic Church told me I would go to hell for. The lyric, oh my Lord, never made no one like you before, seems more like a callback to a more traditional perspective of Christianity. You had to make your own sunshine, but now the sky is opalite, especially when there is a muse that is so prominently associated with the sun, and then opalite, which is man-made. The sky is opalite. Are we just talking about color, or are we talking about the property of it being man-made? I think the sky being opalite is really interesting from the context of a lot of us believe that when she talks about daylight and stepping into the daylight and letting go and all of that jazz, that she's talking about stepping out of the shadows, i.e. coming out of the closet, being openly queer. From this context, when she has still not done that, when she has still not officially stepped into the daylight, this concept that the sky is opalite, the sky is fake, the sky is false daylight, is particularly interesting, particularly compelling. But also from that context, the lines, this is just a storm inside a teacup, but shelter here with me, my love, thunder like a drum, this life will beat you up. This is just a temporary speed bump, but failure brings you freedom. and I can bring you love. And I'm very interested to see what all of like the gemmy crystal witchy people think about the various stone references in this otherwise. I'm going to skip forward a little bit in the lyrics because I really want to discuss this. You were dancing through the lightning strikes. The lightning strikes, like, and this is what you came from, lightning strikes every time she moves. You know that song that Taylor wrote, and I also think of the way that she stepped down in Delicate and that cracked the floor. I think about the cracks in her profile picture on Apple Music and the cracks that were showing up in the Spotify, like, pop-up event or what have you. It's hard for me to decide whether or not it's lightning strikes or if it's glass shattering, and, like, if it's glass shattering, it's the mirror ball of it of, but if it's lightning strikes, it's the this is what you came for of it. I used to live with ghosts, and all the perfect couples said, when you know, and when you don't, you don't. That is one of the most trite and useless pieces of advice that people ever give, I think. Because I have had a lot of people tell me, oh, I knew, and then were divorced within 2 years. I think it is tempting to put things on a feeling, but especially when you've got a lot of money and you don't need a spouse for your financial future. You have enough money to easily acquire a child without a spouse. And a lot of those friends who they knew when they knew the first time, the second time around, it was more like, we have similar goals, we have similar motivations, we have similar ways of seeing the world. We want to form a partnership and go through the world together. It's less like, oh, it's just a feeling. It's more like grounded in thought and reality. And again, it's like fairy tale relationships versus how real relationships work between real actual grown-up people. I admit I'm probably gonna have more thoughts about this one when I'm more awake. There's a lot more going on in the lyrics with this one than a lot of the other ones. But one of the things that I notice is this is just full of platitudes, the word I'm looking for. But I think this is one of those songs where the name Opalite referring to something that is fake, that is man-made, something that is made to be more valuable than it actually is, something that doesn't have inherent value on its own, that song is full of a lot of meaningless platitudes. There are a lot of things in here that she says to herself and people say to each other that feel deep but aren't. It's deep if you're 14. Again, just that vibe that either the song is old or the showgirl writes from a perspective that is much younger. I've seen somebody compare this to Sabrina Carpenter, and it does feel a lot more like her style of writing lyrics, or her style of lyrics. So father figure. So I had heard some spoilers from the Graham Norton show, from the people that were at the taping. So this may or may not be true. Allegedly, according to this person, Taylor said, or is going to say on Graham Norton, that father figure is about Scooter Braun and this mentorship. I really don't believe that because A, we have no reason to believe that Scooter was at any time her mentor. And a part of me was like, okay, maybe this person is misremembering. Maybe it was actually Scott Borchetta. But reading the song now, I don't think that this is about either of them. I personally get the feeling that Taylor is the father figure in this equation. And I want to point out something about father figure, and specifically about George Michael and why he wrote the song and things of that nature. So George Michael had intended to come out of the closet early on in his career, but he was convinced by either his bandmate or his father to stay in the closet. I don't remember exactly. But by the time father figure came out, he was being more open in his lyrics. He was being more open in his writing. So first off, thanks to Sydney for making a video about this, because this is an element of gay male culture that I wasn't familiar with. But specifically, the song Father Figure is about daddy culture within the gay community. During the AIDS epidemic, it was not safe in a lot of different ways for people to be openly gay. Gay people were very much on the fringes of society. There were a lot of threats to our well-being from a lot of different realms. So this daddy culture was a response to that. It was a response to so many people passing away from AIDS. It was a response to not just being able to get on the internet and learning where gay people hang out and how gay people flag each other. In the past, when you couldn't just Google, how do I queer flag or how do I find lesbians, you had to actually, find people in person, and it was more common for a young gay man to find an older gay man, to be a father figure, to help them fit into the community, to find the community, to be safe in the community, to stay alive in the community. So from that context in specific, now because celebrities often don't have the ability to be as open as a lot of people, and they can't just go to like regular gay bars or they'll be recognized, so it makes sense to me that there is probably some sort of mentorship. There are probably like elder queer folks, the people that have been in the industry longer and have managed to figure out how to do it safely and know where all the hangouts are and know how to avoid the paparazzi and how to navigate the PR situation and how to prevent people from... There are a lot of reasons why I think that some element of that kind of a culture probably still exists within queer people within Hollywood. And it makes a lot of sense that Taylor, especially at the age she is now, would be more of a mentor figure than a mentee figure. She is the father figure. And I think, especially the way the song is written, like I guess there's an argument that when I found you, the I is Scooter and the you is Taylor, but that really doesn't make any sense with the lyrics of the song. And some of you are gonna be like, but Aaron, in the lyrics it says her D is bigger. Yes, because sapphics can decide what size they want. And there is a joke, if you're a Dr. Brian Licious fan, of 9-inch Strappler. But the song makes a lot more sense to me from the perspective that Taylor is a queer celebrity and that the you is also another queer celebrity who she's helping to get settled within the community. When I found you, you were young, wayward, lost in the cold. Pulled up to you in the Jag, turned your rags into gold. The winding road leads up to the chateau. You remind me of a younger me. I saw potential. I drink that brown liquor. Taylor has mentioned whiskey and old fashions. I am an old-fashioned girly myself. Definitely a sapphic drink. I can make deals with the devil because my D's bigger. This love is pure profit. Just step into my office. I dry your tears with my sleeve, leave it to me, I protect the family. I do think that she means that literally, and that she tries to keep her family safe, her family name safe, things of that nature, but I also think it from the found family queer sense, like we protect other people who are family within our community. I pay the check before it kisses the mahogany grain, said, they want to see you rise, they don't want you to reign. They want to see you rise because they want to see you make more money, but they don't want to see you actually have power, agency, control, anything like that. I don't think that this is just like queer daddy culture, but I do think it is also like intro to showbiz, like Showgirl. We talk about pop star personas and drag personas. You know how there's drag moms. This Taylor Swift, the drag father, who pays the check. I showed you all the tricks of the trade. All I ask for is your loyalty, my dear protege. I'll be your father figure. I drink that brown liquor. Oh, it's so good. They'll know your name in the streets. Now, this line is interesting. My dear boy, they don't make loyalty like they used to. Your thoughtless ambition sparked the ignition on foolish decisions which led to misguided visions, that to fulfill your dreams you had to get rid of me. So I do think that in a way this could be about Travis, right? Because we know that Travis lives with Ross Travis. We know that Ross goes with him everywhere. We know that despite the fact that Travis only had a really short time with Taylor in Sydney, that he roomed with Ross and Taylor roomed elsewhere. He spends significantly more time with Ross than he does. They both had the gold roses at the Super Bowl, like so much more romantic than anything he's done with her to Taylor. I do think that there is an element where Taylor is like, I will show you how I have succeeded, how I have made a name for myself, how I have managed to navigate in the glass closet and all of these things. However, if his dream is to actually be with Ross, he is going to one day need to get rid of Taylor. Personally though, I suspect that there is somebody that she helped out, a younger figure in the industry, that she taught all of her skills and all of her knowledge and all of her PR experience and all of the things that, you know, Tree is really good at, and also how to survive as a glass-closeted / barely closeted celebrity. Because of the next set of lyrics, you want to fight, you found it. I got the place surrounded. You'll be sleeping with the fishes before you know you're drowning. Whose portrait's on the mantle? Who covered up your scandals? Mistake my kindness for weakness and find your card canceled. I was your father figure. You pulled the wrong trigger. This empire belongs to me. Leave it with me, I protect the family. There are a couple of interesting things here, right? Because I know one of the muses allegedly did use Taylor's credit card So personally, I think that this song is more directed from Taylor to a young showgirl or a young celebrity, actress, whoever Taylor was a father figure to, that Taylor invited into her family. But also I suspect that person could be a romantic muse as well. I personally think it doesn't make sense in a lot of ways to be about Scooter Braun or even Scott Borchetta, and there was a part of me that thought that it might even be directed to her own father. But personally, I think that this is Taylor speaking to someone younger. It just feels more right that way. I'm so interested to hear more about what she has to say about that song, though. Eldest Daughter. I expected for this song to get me. I didn't expect it to get me for this reason. I personally think Eldest Daughter is directed from Taylor to the fans, and I actually think that a lot of these songs do have an interpretation of Taylor directly speaking to the fans. I think that there could be an interpretation for almost every song of it being Taylor speaking directly to the fans, but if you know me, you know that there's two things that I always argue. It's that songs are about Taylor and the fans, or that songs are about Taylor and different parts of her personality. I'm trying not to just not make every song about that. But also, I don't think any song that she's written in many years has just been about one thing, so whatever. Eldest Daughter. I love the fact that the beginning of this song fights against the lack of earnestness. Like, people are so afraid to be earnest. They're so afraid to just embrace things. They're so afraid to be perceived as cringe. So many people just want to talk about things they hate. They just want to use internet comment sections to hurt people because they are hurting inside. A lot of people say really cruel things because they are hurting inside, and that is just the truth of things everywhere, but especially the internet. So the lyrics, everybody's so punk on the internet. Everyone's unbothered till they're not. Every joke's just trolling and memes. Sad as it seems, apathy is hot. Everybody's cutthroat in the comments. Every single hot take is cold as ice. When you found me, I said I was busy. That was a lie. I think a lot of what she said in the podcast and also the beginning of this song are to try and get more fans to realize, like she said on the podcast, what you spend your time on is like your day. It is your life. It is your week, you know, whatever, however much of time you spend on it. If you spend your time being angry all the time about things on the internet, then your day is just wrapped up around anger. Algorithms very often make it seem like there is a larger group of people that are more angry than there really is. When in reality, a lot of the reason that people attack others is because they're jealous of others, because they see someone being honest and earnest and they react to it as though it's cringe. And there's a video that I'm working on that is about how, like, pop stars have personas, but also, like, everybody kind of has a sort of persona that they put on when they're online. Everybody kind of is fronting in a way. No one is being, like, fully themselves. No one is being fully earnest, and because people can be so cruel. I mean, I know that the way that I handle myself on the internet, the way that I talk on the internet, things of that nature, is the result of decades of literally every thought that I had that I posted on an internet screen somewhere. I had a well actually guy, you know, coming right back at me. But back to the lyrics. I've been afflicted by a terminal uniqueness. I've been dying just from trying to seem cool. But I'm not a bad bitch, and this isn't savage. But I'm never gonna let you down. And I'm interpreting a lot of these things as song references, like the Rickroll, but I'm never gonna let you down. And this isn't Savage, the song Savage. But I'm never gonna let you down, I'm never gonna leave you out. So many traitors, smooth operators, but I'm never gonna break that vow. I'm never gonna leave you now, now, now. You know, the last time I laughed this hard was on the trampoline in somebody's backyard. I must have been about 8 or 9. Okay, so right after 7. That was the night I fell off and broke my arm. Pretty soon, I learned cautious discretion. When your first crush crushes something kind. And these lines are interesting, right? Because she's talking about, like, making mistakes and learning from those mistakes. She's talking about things and people hurting her and her choosing to be cautious and choosing to be more discreet and all of those things as a result. Like I've said throughout this entire video, so much of the things in this album are regressions on lessons she's previously learned. So it's so interesting to me that she's, like, reminding us in Eldest Daughter, the track 5 of this album, you know, the emotional song of this album, she's reminding us, like, when bad things happen in life, like, we take those lessons, we try and learn from them, we try to change ourselves to prevent those things from happening again. The next line is, when I said I don't believe in marriage, that was a lie. And I have wanted to see that for a while, right? Because according to her own lyrics, no deal that 1950 shit they want from me. They're everybody looking for, you know, one night or a bride. Like, she had previously had a rejection of matrimony in as like the most recent thing in her themes. And obviously there's the interpretation of like, okay, she's been hurt before, and because she's been hurt before, she thinks that marriage isn't, you know, for her because things aren't going to last forever. Whatever it is that is the product of this hurt. And like, I'm glad she's addressing the fact that she's changed her mind. This does go back to what I previously stated, where like, if somebody is in their mid-30s and they're changing their perspective on what they want and, you know, what relationship is happy and healthy for them, that is always like a little bit of a tick mark. That's always a little bit of a question. That's always a little bit of a, I need to look more into this. It is interesting to me that that phrase kind of stands alone and doesn't get explained much. Every eldest daughter was the first lamb to the slaughter, so we all dressed up as wolves and we looked fire. But I'm not a bad bitch, and this isn't savage, but I'm never gonna let you down. Like many other artists that we have been discussing, she is discussing the fact that, like, it can be very tricky to be an eldest daughter, especially when you have parents that have very high expectations for you. And it's clear that Taylor's parents had particularly high expectations for her. Like, even if she wouldn't have wanted to be a pop star, it really does seem like they did have high expectations, high interests for her. They really tried to set her up to be a high achiever. But I also know that all of my eldest daughter friends, like a lot of us, are in therapy for the things that we went through in our childhood, like the pressures of being an eldest daughter, all of the and especially in my case, I'm an only child, so I'm like the eldest daughter, but also the not son. So that puts me in a particularly interesting predicament, I think. And I think especially being an eldest daughter and like the time period where Taylor and I were raised, and I think a lot of this goes back to like millennial parenting styles too. Like, a lot of millennial parents had this idea that if they just raised their daughters like sons, like I had a lot of the like typical guy, like my parents very much treated me like a boy. Like, I was very much pressured to stiff upper lip, don't cry, don't be emotional, like to smother down a lot of things that were like more obvious hallmarks of my femininity. And I suspect that Taylor very likely had a fairly similar upbringing. There are a lot of things in her behavior that make me feel that way. Like, it just feels like she has a lot of shame over the strength of her emotions, when in reality that's like one of her strongest points. And I think that this song is like a reckoning of this. This song is a reckoning of how like she's just not strong in the way a lot of people expect her to be. She's just not able to deal with this stuff. Like, and I just think about like, even just, I comparatively have a lot less attention on me than Taylor does. And I'm starting to grasp why so many pop stars have a separate persona, because being perceived by so many people is difficult, especially when people have a lot of opinions about you, and those opinions can often be harsh and negative. Then Taylor says, we lie back, a beautiful, beautiful time lapse, Ferris wheels, kisses, and lilacs, and things I said were dumb, because I thought that I'd never find that beautiful, beautiful life that shimmers that innocent light back, like when we were young. She speaks of time lapses, and I'm also thinking about kaleidoscopes. A lot of people thought that TS7 was going to be kaleidoscope, and a lot of the Spotify like graphics for this album did kind of have a kaleidoscope-esque feel, so this makes me think about that. But also like time lapse, I think about like a lot of time passing, the duration of her career. Like I said, I have this vibe that this is especially from like her as an eldest daughter to a lot of her fans that are eldest daughters, but also I think she encompasses youngest children as well. Every youngest child felt that they were raised up in the wild, but now you're home. When Taylor references children in that childlike wildness, I think about the book Untamed that she clearly read in the middle of 2020. There are a lot of her songs in Folklore and Evermore that clearly have a lot of the hallmarks from that book. And a lot of that book is about unprogramming all of the like good girl culture that society imparts upon us. And I'm very curious, again, is this a song that the roots, the origin, the concept of it is modern, is from nowadays, or is this something older? But it would also be remiss of me to not notice that lilac as a purple flower also very often associated with queer women. Ruin the Friendship. I don't think anybody correctly guessed what this song was about. So unless we hear something different about this song from Taylor, the media is largely reporting that they believe this is about Jeff Lang, who is a high school friend of Taylor's who OD'd in 2010 after suffering from mental health struggles. Now, a lot of people have already believed that Forever Winter was about him. That was a Red Taylor's version vault track. So that likely was probably written in, what, 2011? When was Red obviously came out in 2012, so that song likely would have been written in like 2010, 2011. It's interesting to me that in 2025, a full 15 years after this person's passing, we have another song dedicated to him, but this song is basically, we should have both cheated on our significant others with each other. And it's been interesting to see the perspectives that a lot of people have on this song, because obviously the point of the song is like, hey, even though we were both with other people, well, he had another person. I don't know if she did. Regardless, even though you had a girlfriend, I should have kissed you and ruined the friendship because, you know, it's better than not knowing and spending, you know, the rest of my life not knowing. And like I said at the top, typically when Taylor is explicitly talking about like high school and high school things, it is as a metaphor for like the industry and things of that nature, or that's what a lot of us believe that it is. I definitely think that this song is going to spark up a lot of discourse, especially because like, but again, I query, like, if this is supposed to be an album that is about like how happy she is with her man, why is she devoting an entire song out of the 12 tracks to how sad she is that she didn't kiss a guy 20 years ago? It's a weird choice. It's a weird choice. So actually romantic. As I predicted, not actually romantic, but I think it's kind of obvious. I don't know. I heard you call me boring Barbie when the cokes got you brave. High-fived my ex and then you said you're glad he ghosted me. Wrote me a song saying it makes you sick to see my face. Some people might be offended, but it's actually sweet, all the time you spent on me. It's honestly wild, all the effort you've put in. It's actually romantic. I do think that there are a number of people that are going to take this song literally at face value as being romantic. There are a lot of people that just like being treated badly. Like, there are a lot of people that the bar is on the floor. There are a lot of people that don't have a lot of self-worth, that don't have a lot of self-value. So when people treat you like you have worth, like you have value, it makes you feel weird. It makes you feel like they don't know you or what have you. So you almost do better in relationships when someone treats you like crap, when someone neglects you. And a lot of it goes back to just that concept that a lot of the things that are portrayed romantically regarding like her male muses are actually like bare minimum stuff. Like, he doesn't have many red flags is not like a reason you should marry somebody. Like, I am very put off by the amount of unnecessary aggression that Travis shows on the football field, that even a lot of other, that most other players don't show. Like, I've watched a decent amount of football, and he just seems to have an aggression to temper problem. You have Taylor presenting herself as though she's doing all of these things. She's baking sourdough for him. She's laughing at his podcast jokes. She's learning football for him. She's doing all of these things for him, and he baked a sourdough once, and he doesn't have that many red flags, and he has a couple of green flags. He acts like a man-child. There was a lot of the podcast was kind of dedicated to just like him and Jason kind of being man-children and needing to be gentle parented themselves, and the fact that there are a lot of things that heterosexual people think are normal and cute in relationships, but it's like, you're married to a man. You're married to a grown adult man. He needs to act like it. Like, put in the work the way, like, the women are putting in the work. But then the lyrics go, I really gotta hand it to you. No man has ever loved me like you do. Hadn't thought of you in a long time, but you keep sending me funny valentines. And I know you think it comes off vicious, but it's precious adorable. Like a toy chihuahua barking at me from a tiny purse. That's how much it hurts. Now, the next line is interesting, right? How many times has your boyfriend said, why are we always talking about her? Okay, so is this a man that's dating another man? Or is this a woman that is her ex? And I want to circle back to the no man has ever loved me like you do. And this is one of, I believe, a couple of times. Sorry, I'm getting thirsty, so I'm drinking Hawaiian punch and pickle shooter, so my tongue is going to be red. But anyway. And that's interesting to me also because she says at the beginning, no man has ever loved me like you do. Taylor more frequently than not says no man than she does like nobody or no one, and that makes me think very often that she is being specific. No man has loved me like that, but a woman or a non-binary person may have. It's actually sweet all the time you've spent on me. It's honestly wild all the effort you've put in. It's actually romantic. Now, I guess in fairness, there is the argument like that this is actually romantic because this person is actually putting time and effort and thought into her and is thinking about her regularly. You think I'm tacky, baby. Stop talking dirty to me. It sounded nasty, but it feels like you're flirting with me. I mind my business. God's my witness that I don't provoke it. It's kind of making me wet. I don't know. There's something about that line that is just awkward to me, and like if you told me yesterday, hey, there's a line in Taylor's new work where she talks about how wet she was, like, as somebody that's attracted to women, I would be like, oh, cool, I need to check that out. It wasn't sexy, it wasn't, And then again, we have God's my witness, a reversion or a regression on the religiousness, because it's actually sweet all the time you've spent on me. It's honestly lovely, all the effort you've put in. It's actually romantic. And this is another one of those songs where I'm like, okay, is this an older song that has been like revamped, recorded now, what have you? Is this how she previously felt, right? Because normally, if you have had a healthy relationship, if you have had somebody who actually gives you time and attention and things of that nature, like, it seems like based on the way she's describing the situation, this person would have you, is that because that person is spending time on her, is spending effort on her, she's on this person's mind more than she's usually on a lot of other people's minds. It feels like this person has disdain for her, but at least this person is noticing her. Again, it feels like early relationship. It doesn't feel like a position that a 35-year-old woman is going to be in. Again, allegedly, when she's so gung-ho in love with her man. Like, this is so, like, maybe this is just me, but when I'm in a relationship and I'm actually happy in that relationship and my needs are getting met and it's the right relationship for me, I don't spend my time reminiscing about that ex that treated me with disdain, you know? It's very weird. Then we have Wishlist. Who is this? This doesn't sound like Taylor Swift. Like, I am open to the fact that Taylor may want to get married. I am open to the fact that Taylor may want to have children one day. But when we consider the things that Taylor has actually said that she has wanted, Taylor has said that she is not done. She has been interested in directing a feature film. There are a lot of things professionally that she has said that she wants to do. And so from that perspective, I find Wishlist very hard to believe. I can absolutely believe that Taylor may want to have a family. I just can't believe that that's all she wants. And again, it goes back to what I've been saying. If all they want is great for me, this is what the fans want from her. This is what the TLOAS stands want from her. When she bought her masters, they were like, yay, she can finally get barefoot and pregnant in his kitchen. When the Eras tour was over, they were like, yay, she can finally get pregnant and barefoot on the sidelines. This, to me, feels like giving the fans what they want for her. And something that I've spoken about a number of times on this channel is the erasure of Taylor Swift. The fact that there are so many things that have historically been associated with Taylor, but as soon as Travis came in the picture, became his. Like the color red, Taylor had the song in the album before he was even drafted to the Chiefs. Like the letter T, it's the beginning of her name. Like the Archer, she's a Sagittarius. Archer is her star sign. And that's not enough for them. The crowd is chanting more. When TLOAS stans saw a mock-up of a wedding invitation that said Taylor and Travis Kelce, they were oh so excited for her to give up her name. As I just said, every time she has a career achievement, they're like, great, cool, now time for her to be more domestic. They want her to give up her career. Every time they perceive that there could be a slight bulge on her stomach or they don't see her for a while, they assume she's pregnant. They want her to give up her body and her agency over that too. The crowd just keeps chanting more with regards to Taylor and Travis. And another part of erasing Taylor in the lyrics of this song, have a couple kids, got the whole block looking like you. So Taylor's kids aren't even gonna look like her, okay? I guess she's just a womb for him now. I want to call out the lines, they want that complex female character, they want that critical smash pomme d'or, which I know I pronounce wrong because I always pronounce it wrong, but like, these are things that I assume that like Taylor, the person who has a career and wants to work, wants, like, because Taylor has said that she wants to make a feature film. Actually, she said that she wants to tell a sports story, and she is telling a sports story, a story that involves the erasure of Taylor Swift. Also, and an Oscar on their bathroom floor, a lot of us have speculated that Taylor probably wants to go for the EGOT. She is talented enough to get it, I believe. But according to this song, I just want you, have a couple kids, got the whole block looking like you. We'll tell the world to leave us the F alone, and they do. Which personally, I think that goes against some things that she says in the last song, but you know, this whole song is special, we'll allow it. I also think it's interesting that she says, got me dreaming about a driveway with a basketball hoop. We're bringing God back into the equation. Please, God, bring me a best friend who I think is hot. Really? Like the other female best friends that you've dated. I think it's so interesting the amount of time Taylor spends talking about falling in love with her best friend and wanting to be in love with her best friend and all of these things when, like, the only male best friend she's really had was Ed Sheeran, and I personally don't get the vibes that they ever did anything. She is much more well known for having female best friends that she has suspiciously close relationships with and that live with her. And I know I'm starting to sound like a broken record about, like, if your 35-year-old friend suddenly decides that the only priority in their life, the only thing that they need is a person and to birth that person's kids who will look like him, and you'll have a sports thing in front of the house, but we won't have anything musical for the kids because, you know, heaven forbid the kids even like stuff that Taylor likes or take after their mother in any way. Like, we don't like Taylor. We want Taylor out of the question at all. Like, it's just so not romantic, but yet also, because of what is portrayed as romantic in so much media, a lot of cishet women are probably going to go gaga for some of this stuff. I'm actually curious how they're thinking about Wood. Let's talk about Wood. Ugh. Oh, Wood. She starts off by saying Daisy's bare naked. I once was poison ivy, but now I'm your Daisy. Of course, in this instance, she's using it to refer to he loves me not. She has taken all of the petals off and ended with he loves me not. She's flipped the penny. It's not given what she wants. It's she took him back. She stepped on a crack and the black cat laughed. And honestly, with Taylor, I would expect black cats to be a lucky thing with her, not an unlucky thing. And baby, I'll admit I've been a little superstitious. Fingers crossed until you put your hand on mine. It seems to be that you and me, we make our own luck. A bad sign is all good. But also, in regards to they want that complex female character, like Taylor, TTPD Taylor, the poet Taylor, is a complex female character. But the Showgirl version of Taylor that is in this album, like, who cares about my career? Who cares about my future? Who cares about all of that stuff? I just exist to be a womb for a man. Does this sound like any part of Taylor Swift that we have heard over all of these years? Does this sound like a 35-year-old woman who is making good decisions out of a rational place with concern for how things will go in the future? Or does it seem like she's saying, hey, these are all of the things that you said you wanted from me, isn't it great? Because personally, everybody was so excited for their ovulation songs because heaven forbid a straight woman wants sex for anything other than a baby. Like, is this gonna go on people's ovulation playlist? Are straight people turned on by this? Forgive me, it sounds cocky. He dickmatized me and opened my eyes, redwood tree. It ain't hard to see, his love was the key that opened my thighs. Girls, I don't need to catch the bouquet to know a hard rock is on the way. And baby, I'll admit I've been a little superstitious. The curse on me was broken by your magic wand. New heights of manhood, I ain't got a knock on wood. Are you serious? Like, is this sexy? Like, is this just gross because I'm a lesbian? Or is this just gross and weird? Like, and here's the thing, like, when Beyonce is surfboarding and when Ariana is going side to side, like, I can get into that. I can get into some Virgo's groove. This just feels weird and awkward. It does not feel like a woman who enjoys sleeping with men talking about how she enjoys sleeping with men. Do we suspect that the final thesis to honorary Dr. Taylor Swift's work is going to be, oops, the dick opened my thighs and now I'm a brainless bimbo with no aspirations but to be a womb for a man's seed? Are you serious? Next up is canceled. Another thing that Travis has replaced in Taylor's life is the people that she tends to spend time with. Instead of, like, the friends that she used to have, she's mostly spending time with his football bros and, like, you know, and their wives with questionable morals. And canceled kind of refers to that too. There's a callback to father figure here. Did you girl boss too close to the sun? Calls back to they want to see you rise, they don't want you to reign. But in accepting Travis and all of the people in his NFL circle and like the NFL with all of the like CTE and questionable morals and DV and like there are a lot of not good things that are associated with the NFL, with the people that Travis associates with, etc., so forth and so on. She also talks about drinking whiskey sours, which is also a callback to father figure. I drink that brown liquor. And I think that in this song, Taylor is talking to herself. Specifically, I think that Mastermind Taylor is speaking to probably like post-Reputation or post-Failed Coming Out era Taylor. You thought that it would be okay at first. The situation would be saved, of course. But they'd already picked out your grave and hearse. Beware the wrath of masked crusaders. Did you girl boss too close to the sun? Did they catch you having far too much fun? Come with me. When they see us, they'll run. Something wicked this way comes. Bringing in the Halloween spirit with Something Wicked This Way Comes, also bringing in the witchy vibes, kind of detouring a little bit from the more Christian themes that are present throughout a number of the songs. Good thing I like my friends canceled. I like them cloaked in Gucci and in scandal. Like my whiskey sour and poison thorny flowers. I once was poison ivy, now I'm your daisy. Again, is this a reversion or is this something from the past? Welcome to my underworld where it gets quite dark. A lot of us have been talking about the upside down, the underworld, Taylor hiding, Karma music video. At least you know exactly who your friends are. They're the ones with matching scars. It's easy to love you when you're popular. The optics click, everyone prospers. But one single drop, you're off the roster. Tone deaf and hot, let's effing offer. Did you make a joke only a man could? Were you just too smug for your own good? Or bring a tiny violin to a knife fight? Baby, that all ends tonight. I've been wondering exactly what she means by they're the ones with matching scars. Is she just meaning emotional scars, or is she talking physical as well? Is she talking about the scars from like where she shattered like a mirror ball, or is she talking more literal like plastic surgery scars? They stood by me before my exoneration. They believed I was innocent, so I'm not here for judgment, no. But if you can't be good, then just be better at it. This reminds me of a line from an Eminem song, be good or be good at it. And the reason why that's particularly interesting to me is because that song, No Love, has a reference to Kanye and Kanye snatching the mic from Taylor. Specifically, Eminem says, look at these rappers, how I treat them, so why the F would I join them when I beat them? They call me a freak because I like to spit on these for I eat 'em. Man, get these whack cocksuckers off stage. Where the F is Kanye when you need 'em? Snatch the mic from him. B, I'ma let you finish in a minute. Yeah, that rap was tight, but I'm about to spit the greatest verse of all time. I'm sorry, that was bad rhythm. It's 4 a.m. now, so. And a lot of us believe that this underworld is where all of the, like, closeted celebrities are. And also, canceled sounds very much like I did something bad, and I cannot wait until somebody mashes the two of them up. Everybody's got bodies in the attic or took somebody's man. We'll take you by the hand, and soon you'll learn the art of never getting caught. I think she's bragging somewhat about the things that she does out of sight, but also stealing somebody's man and going back to the beginning with Elizabeth Taylor and Eddie Fisher. Yeah, it's a good thing I like my friends canceled. I salute you if you're much too much to handle. She's done the lesbian salute a number of times. Can't you see my infamy loves company? Now they've broken you like they've broken me, but a shattered glass is a lot more sharp, and now you know exactly who your friends are. You know who we are. We're the ones with matching scars. Honey. Honey feels really juvenile. Honey is basically, again, I keep saying, bare minimum, bars on the floor. Just because there's a couple of green flags doesn't mean you should just go full speed ahead. Okay, so what are the qualifications for this person who can call her honey? Previously in the past, when people call her sweetheart, it was passive-aggressive. This person isn't passive-aggressive. If someone called her honey, they were saying that her skirt doesn't fit her and she cried the whole way home. So basically this person's criteria is when they call her honey, they actually mean it in a not demeaning way. This, again, does not feel like a 35-year-old woman speaking. It feels like somebody in her low 20s who has been through, like, a couple toxic relationships, and, like, I refuse to believe that until Travis came along, no one... You mean to tell me that, like, Joe Alwyn, for all of his flaws... If you believe that that's a real relationship, because if you believe Tavis is real, you're gonna believe in Toe, regardless, Do you sincerely believe that he never called her honey unless it was demeaning? Like, this is so, like, it just does not make sense for a grown-up person. I'm so curious when the meat and potatoes of this album was written. All right, let's look at the lyrics a little bit more deeply. This song as well, a lot of themes about the erasure of Taylor's agency and, like, honey, I'm home, we can play house, we can bed down, pick me up, who's the baddest in the land, what's the plan, you could be my forever nightstand. Does this sound like anything? Alright, look, I did this in one of my other videos, but you're gonna have to listen to me do it now too. I need you all to remember what this woman is capable of. Want is the cigarette smoke on a jacket you wore to the wrong part of town. Desire is the sound of the whiskey telling me you miss me, can you come around? Passion is a passing thing, it's accidental chemistry. Lust is a liar, a short-lived fire, it ain't what you and I are at all. Oh, it's a need, I would go anywhere that you lead. I am hopeless, breathless, burning slow. Touch me, hold me, tell me I won't let you go. I won't leave, it's a need. Danger is 1,000 prickles on my neck that tell me to run or freeze. Fear is the nightmare I had, you were with someone else, you forgot about me. Passion is a passing thing, it's accidental chemistry. Caught up in a feeling, it can be deceiving. This is like breathing for me. Oh, it's a need, I would go anywhere that you lead. I am hopeless, breathless, burning slow. Touch me, hold me, tell me I won't let you go. I won't leave, it's a need. Babe, it's always a new kiss every time we do this. The truth is, it's essential to me that you love me more than wishing, longing. Oh, it's a need, I am hopeless, breathless, burning slow. Touch me, hold me, tell me I won't let you go. I won't leave, it's a need. Taylor is capable of such poetry. Like, a lot of people teased her and gave her crap about focusing on how much she's a poet in TTBD, but she is really a poet, a truly brilliant writer. This, obviously, because it is from the perspective of the showgirl who is putting on the performance, who is not the, the poet, is a different facet of Taylor's persona. It is a performative facet of Taylor's persona. You just can't expect me to believe that the greatest love of her life has produced some of the weakest love lyrics. I'm sorry. I don't buy it. Maybe if there weren't so many other things that do not pass the sniff test. I'm sorry. There's just too many things that shed doubt on it. Especially when you consider the fact that Taylor and Travis and all of the people around them are making tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars off of profits directly from this relationship and interest in this relationship, because this relationship has made both of them interesting to, especially Travis, to a degree that he has never before known. Like, and just everything with their vibe at the podcast, they just came off as really good friends, and just looking at, like, comparatively how Taylor has vibed with other people in the past, there are many, many doubts. Now, I literally mentioned Elizabeth Taylor literally got set up for marriage by the studio system. Like, it's people act like that stuff is not common, but amongst wealthy people, it is extraordinarily common. But amongst wealthy people, it is extraordinarily common to have PR relationships, to have lavender relationships, especially to have polyamorous, non-monogamous relationship. Like, the only condition that I am willing to accept Taylor and Travis together legitimately romantically is if it is an ethically non-monogamous situation. Especially because Travis's boyfriend, roommate, whatever the frick you want to call him, has spoken more romantically about Travis than Taylor has, in my opinion. So, The Life of a Showgirl featuring Sabrina Carpenter. The premise of this song is basically that Sabrina and Taylor want to have the life of a showgirl, and they go up to a showgirl and they're like, how do you live this life? And the showgirl's basically like, no kid, this isn't the life for you, but they become showgirls anyway. This song subverts basically the entire album. Let's discuss it. Her name was Kitty, made her money being pretty and witty. They gave her the keys to this city. Then they said she didn't do it legitly. Oh, I bought a ticket. She's dancing in her garters and fishnets. 50 in the cast, 0 missteps. Looking back, I guess it was kismet. Basically, the general gist is that Kitty is succeeding as a showgirl, and people don't think that success is legitimate because they're like, all you're doing is taking your clothes off. But she's doing all these complicated showgirl things with no missteps, so clearly there's a level of talent, there's a level of ability, there's a level of time spent, there's commitment, and this really is about a couple of different intersecting things, right? About how women's labor isn't taken seriously, especially when it's taking place in women-dominated spaces, but most especially when you're being naked, when you're using your body. A lot of people think that using your body to get ahead in the world means that it's easy, but very few people have a nice body with no work. Like, the majority of people that are pop stars probably have incredibly strict diet and exercise regimens. They probably also have access to facilities and treatments and surgeries and all of these things beyond what is accessible to most people. It is a lot of time, it is a lot of money, it is a lot of effort. Even if you go the entire surgical route, surgery is an inherently very traumatic thing for your body to go through. So there really is very few easy routes. The only easy ticket to the top in the world is being a Nepo baby, but even still, like, look at Nepo babies and look at their relative level of success. Like, sure, there are some that reach high echelons, but a lot of them very much struggle because they're not used to having to work hard. Like, they've never had to fight for it the way their parents have often. And the Nepo babies that do the best are the ones that have put the most work in. Very few Nepo babies have just gotten to the top with zero work whatsoever. Looking back, I guess it was Kismet. I believe that means luck or fate. I waited by the stage door, packed in with the autograph hounds, barking her name. Then, glowing like the end of a cigarette, wow, she came out. I said, you're living my dream. So she is going to see this showgirl at the side door at the end of the night, waiting in the crowd. You don't know whether or not they're going to come out the side door, if they're going to sneak out some other way, or if they're going to stay late in the thing, so you may be waiting out there for hours, just on a chance to possibly see somebody. Then she said to me, hey, thank you for the lovely bouquet. You're sweeter than a peach. But you don't know the life of a showgirl, babe, and you're never ever gonna. Wait, the more you play, the more that you pay. You're softer than a kitten, so you don't know the life of a showgirl, babe, and you're never gonna wanna. So basically what they're saying, like, there's been so much stress throughout a lot of things that Taylor has released recently about how soft she is, how weak she perceives herself as being, and other people in the industry, other showgirls, have told her, hey, you're not going to be able to succeed at this because of your weakness, because you don't have this, like, because you're not cutthroat enough, because you're not strong enough, because you're just a kitten. She was a menace, the baby of the family in Lenox. Her father whored around like all men did. Her mother took pills and played tennis. So she waited by the stage door. As the club promoter arrived, she said, I'd sell my soul to have a taste of a magnificent life that's all mine. But that's not what showgirls get. They leave us for dead. I don't know if this is supposed to be an actual person, the menace, the baby of the family in Lenox. I do believe that... Isn't Lady Gaga from, like, Lenox Hill or something like that? Oh, she was born at Lenox Hill Hospital. Oh, it's not spelled differently, but it does have Hill. I know Under the Pink Six had speculated that it's Edith Wharton, but that's an entirely different direction. We're not going to go there tonight. It's 4:30 in the morning. Oh my god, I still need to edit this and try to get it out. They leave us for dead is meant very literally. God, I had another video that I really needed to get out before this video, but you know what? I'm at least getting it to hype it up in this video, where I'm talking about pop star personas, showgirls being a form of drag persona. And one of the things that I say is basically, in the pursuit of profit, the industry puts people through inhumane things, and very often to deal with that, people turn to substances. And when you're making a lot of money, and when you're making them a lot of money, and you've got the right people around you who can kind of keep you in check and make sure you don't get bad stuff, and make sure you don't have bad people in your circle that take advantage of you, you're fine. But it's when you stop making as much money, when you stop making the people, the corporate overlords who hire your staff, as much money, you have less people around you. You have less bubble to keep you safe. And the thing is there are so many people in Hollywood that realize that Hollywood is just an addict factory. It turns out people that need things and that are dependent on things. You have all of these bad people. That's what happened to Matthew Perry, basically, is people recognized that he was an easy target because they knew of his problems, and they gave him crazy levels. Like, a lot of times we blame people when substances end them, but the thing is when you're surrounded by people who are just trying to shove it down your throat, and you have that problem and you've had it since you were very young, it can be very difficult for a lot of people. And especially with TTPD, with how soul-crushingly depressing it was, with I Can Do It With a Broken Heart, with her literally being broken down into nothing and dying on stage and then like being propped up and primped up and put back on stage by Travie in a scene that was completely not romantic at all. She could have put him anywhere there, and she put him in the least romantic place, period. It literally kills people. A lot of times when pop stars want to take very long walks off of very short piers, the industry acts like there is something wrong with them. When in reality, the industry is what broke them in the first place. The media that makes fun of them when they're having problems is a huge contributing factor of that. It is literally a life and death thing. That was so much of TTPD was about. This has been a life and death thing. And about how Taylor got herself out of that situation. How Taylor, so many people give that man credit for so much of her work. So many men get so much credit for so much of Taylor's work. And I understand why it upsets her so much. Like, I get it. I took her pearls of wisdom, hung them from my neck. I paid my dues with every bruise. I knew what to expect. Do you want to take a skate on the ice inside my veins? They ripped me off like false lashes and then threw me away. Taylor and Sabrina are saying how they willingly went into the industry, they willingly became showgirls, they willingly put on a persona in order to be commodified for sale, such that they could make the rich people richer, at the cost of their own well-being. And all the headshots on the walls of the dance hall are of the bees who wish I'd hurry up and die. But I'm immortal now, baby dolls. I couldn't if I tried. Both Taylor and Sabrina say, thank you for the lovely bouquet. I'm married to the hustle, and now I know the life of a showgirl, babe, and I'll never know another. Pain hidden by the lipstick and lace. Sequins are forever, and now I know the life of a showgirl. Wouldn't have it any other way. Now I'm making money being pretty and witty. Thank you for the lovely bouquet. So this is the Showgirls' final song, the Showgirls being both Taylor and Sabrina, both who are married to the hustle. Like one of the things that really impacts how I personally interpret a lot of Taylor's work is that when you look at Taylor's interviews and when you look at what she actually talks about, she talks about her career and her family and songwriting as a whole and like so many other things so much more than the men in her life. Like, whether the relationships are real or not, it just seems she's largely disinclined to discuss it unless other people bring it up, and then a lot of times she seems like uncomfortable with that. I just think most fans don't truly understand how much she loves her job, and her job may not be as pop star. Like, I do suspect that once like this era is over and then maybe like a wrap up TS13 where she finally has control of everything, I just really see that she's going to go into other storytelling mediums. It is kind of weird to me the number of people who want to push her to just set aside her career entirely for this man right as she finally owns her masters. There are so many things that she couldn't previously do with them, or that she probably didn't want to do with them because it would make other people profit, that she's now free to do. And I really suspect that we're going to see some sort of feature, like actual scripted thing, production out of her fairly soon, sooner rather than later. I think about her Directors on Directors interview a ton because she is just she's so interesting, first off. And she's just, a lot of people act like this is a job for her. And yeah, I think this is a job for her, but she is just such a single-minded storyteller. She's just so focused on telling a good story. She absolutely strikes me as the type of person who would put herself in situations that are not necessarily for her good benefit because she knows that it would make for a good story. And I say that because I used to be that same person. Like, I would just do it for the plot, do it for the narrative. She's really at the height of her career, and a lot of people are pushing her to just set that aside because her boyfriend's first career is over. And personally, nothing about this album changes my mind as to what I believe the eventual future is. I believe the future is to destroy the blender, the recording industry / fame industry / NFL blender that forces queer people to pretend that they are straight. Surveys about the NFL have shown that 1 to 2 players per team identify as queer, although in most cases closeted. Pretty much everybody that has come out of the closet while having a professional career has then no longer had a professional career. I'm very curious how this is all going to go if Travis continues to stink, because I do think that if he came out of the closet right now with the way that he's playing, he would probably get benched and then his career would probably be over. I think one of the things that makes a lot of people have a hard time believing in PR is because of Travis's side of things, which obviously he's making hundreds of millions of dollars off of all of this, don't be silly, and getting film opportunities. NFL stars have to put in work to have a career after they get off the field. It's very few that just passively can continue to keep getting opportunities without putting in a lot of work. Devoid of Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce would be forgotten in 18 months max after he left the league. I mean, sports people would know him, and like a couple people like, wait, he was that turtle wide back. What position did he play? Tight end? And one of the things they stress at the end, pain hidden by the lipstick and lace. Again, like I stressed, the section of the TTBD set that Travis comes in on is not romantic. And a lot of TTBD was about how much pain Taylor experiences. And I think a lot of her fans have a hard time processing that and don't want to see it as that. So I'm really curious how this is going to come off. And then the outro. Thank you for an unforgettable night. We will see you next time. Give it up for the band and the dancers. And of course, Sabrina. I love you, Taylor. That's our show. We love you so much. Good night. The album was a show. All of this was a show. It was her portraying characters, or specifically the character of the Showgirl. Designed to have one level of interpretation that like mainline Swifties will notice, but then people who notice the holes, the cracks, the seams will start to pick. And as they start to pick at things, they will gradually end up coming our way. It's interesting to me. People act like the Gaylor / performance artler side of the fandom is crazy and out there and all that jazz. But it is interesting to me that a lot of us are like people with PR experience, people that have like media experience, people that worked in the industry, literature professors. Like there's a number of like really highly educated people, and also highly educated relating to like the industry and the machinations of the industry. Like ever since the beginning of showbiz, there have been people that were not straight that were pretending to be straight. There is a significant number of people that are LGBTQ that never come out of the closet or come out of the closet after they pass. And the reason it's so important to talk about it is because that normalizes it. And I've been through this a number of times in my life. Like I remember knowing that Elton John was gay before everyone else did. I remember knowing that Ellen was going to come out of the closet before Ellen did, because even before I realized I was gay, like I recognized like, oh, I like that a lot. That must be gay. My next video is going to be about how pop star personas are like drag personas. So if that's interesting to you, please be sure to subscribe so you can check it out. I've been Erin Moriarty. Thank you so very much for watching this. If you stayed this long, you're a real trooper. Like, I owe you.